Hey guys, welcome to Bible 365. I'm your host, Kathy Carter. I'm bringing you Revelation 11 and 12 today. So we are going to meet the beast out of the bottomless pit. If you're interested, I want you to stick with me, and I'll see you guys in just a minute. Hey, welcome to Bible 365. I'm your host, Kathy Carter, and this channel is here to kind of merge Bible living with Bible literacy. So, we are going to be using the New Testament this year in order to understand what it's like to live as a follower of Christ. I have a link below in the description that I have a download that will bring you to a chronological Bible reading of the New Testament. So, what I want you to do is read every day and join me and hopefully some friends as we talk about what it means to live as a kingdom builder. Let's get started. Hey, and welcome to Bible 365. I am your host, and today I'm bringing you Revelation 11 and 12. So, for those of you who've never been here before, welcome. I want you to go back to Revelation 1 because it makes more sense. If you've never read Revelation before, it gets really funky at this point and it's really difficult to understand. And I don't even go deep into the prophecies. Like, I'm not trying to solve any crazy riddles, just trying to read what's there. But um, the very brief overview is that our writer is John, and so the deal is that John, Jesus, let me rewind even further. Jesus was given permission by God to give this revelation, this prophecy, this vision to John. And so John is now, I guess what we would say is inside a vision. Like at one point he says, I turned around and looked. And so what we know is he's on the island of Patmos, but like he's inside a vision. He's seeing things. And what he seems to be seeing is the heavenly realm. It's something that we can't see. It's something that we don't clearly understand, any of us. I know there are probably like died and gone to heaven stories and died and gone to another place kind of stories. And I don't want to take away from any of those things, but the reality is I don't think any of us can clearly see those visions. John and probably Ezekiel and maybe Isaiah have seemed to have gotten the closest, right? They've been given prophetic visions. And even then, it's hard for them to understand, right? It looks like a man who has the head of a lion, who has eyes all over. It's like locusts, but they sting like scorpions, but they have the faces of man and hair like women. Like these are all things that are beyond our scope of understanding. So when you're trying to understand it, which I know we all are, like I know some of us are more dogged in the trying the understanding than others. Like I find it like fascinating and interesting, and I certainly want to read it. I don't want to never read it or never be aware of these things. I think it's been put in the book for a very specific reason, but I don't want to die on any of these hills because the truth is I don't know. When it says that someone is coming in the clouds and looks like a rainbow, are they going to come in and look like that on Cartoon Network, there's this guy that looks like a rainbow, The Adventures of Gumball, and he's like a rainbow, like it, or and clouds. Is it going to look like that? Probably not. So it's probably some other understanding of what that means, and I don't necessarily know. What I know is that I need to be in the Lord. I need to be in prayer. I need to fully be following Jesus, right? Like I need to be a follower and a lover and understanding of who Jesus is. And I think if that is the case, I think when these things come and he wants us to see and understand, we will. So I use the example, and I think I used it before, when the two guys are walking after Jesus was raised from the dead, and he's walking on the road, and he sees these two guys, and they're like, "Oh wow, it's so sad. This is so sad. This thing that happened." And Jesus walks and talks with them and shows them everywhere that he is in the Old Testament, and they still don't understand it's Jesus. But then once they get there, he reveals himself to them, right? Like so, when the time comes, and he wants those who follow to know, we're gonna know. Until then, we're just trying to understand, right? We're trying to like be in this a little bit and trying to kind of get a gist of what this is. So like when planes come in or when vaccines come or when social security numbers, we're not like screaming like, "Oh, this is the time," but we are comfortably cynical and aware, right? We don't agree to things that don't have anything to do with Jesus because we need to be aware of who Jesus is. Okay. Finding ourselves in chapter 11, he has opened the seals, and now this in the seventh seal, these trumpets were blown, and then this one woe has come. And now today we're going to get into that second one. So First, we have these two witnesses. Then I was given a reed like a measuring rod. So again, John is like in this vision. He was given a reed like a measuring rod. So he's meant to measure something. Why? I'm sure there's a reason, but he was meant to measure something. And it says, rise and measure the temple of God, the altar, and those who worship there, but leave out. So, like the temple and those who worship are sort of like on the inside of the temple, and the people who are actually worshiping there. So, back in the Old Testament, and this is after the Old Testament, but back in the Old Testament, this would have been Jewish people, right? Like the nation of Israel, because other people could worship, but they were outside. And then other people were completely outside of the temple, but they could be inside the walls and they could be buying things, right? So there was a commerce allowed to happen. It wasn't supposed to, but commerce was allowed to happen there. And so there were other people outside, but this is the inside of the temple. And he's like, eh, I think the idea is that those of us that follow will be on the inside of this and we'll be the ones who are being measured, right? Like, so we know who is and who is not. And so the outsider left as who is not. And they are left with prophets. So it's not like they're left to nothing. There are two people out there and they are prophesying constantly, right? Like, so for it says 42 months, they are constantly prophesying and then their lives are taken. So let's just talk a little bit about this. It says, these are the two olive trees and the two lampstands standing before God, the God of earth. And if anyone wants to harm them, fire proceeds from their mouth and devours their enemies. So they are here a guaranteed 42 months. It has the amount of days. If anyone wants to harm them, he must be killed in this manner. These have power to shut heaven so that no rain falls in the days of their prophecy. This is like Elijah, too. If you guys remember way back when in the book of Kings, Elijah had the power to shut off the rain, which is what he did. And then he brought in the rain for the kings at that time. When they finished their testimony. So here we go. Now we have another time. They finished their testimony. The 42 months is up. And then this beast comes up from that bottomless pit that had already opened. Smoke had come out of the pit. The locusts have come out of the pit. And now this beast has come up out of the pit. And it says, this beast will make war against them, overcome them, and take their lives, these two prophets. And their bodies will lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. It's also the place where our Lord was crucified. So we know where that place is. Then everyone is going to be able to see these bodies, and they're not going to put these bodies in the grave. And then it says, and those who dwell on the earth will rejoice over them, make merry, and send gifts to one another because of them. So, like, there's going to be a holiday because of them, essentially. Now, after the 3.5 days, the breath of life from God enters them, and they are resurrected. It says, and they heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, come up here. And they ascend to heaven in a cloud. In the same hour, there was a great earthquake, and a tenth of the city fell. So these prophets, their lives were taken. 3.5 days, people were rejoicing when they were seeing them because they were the prophets. And then they ascended. And once they ascended, there was an earthquake on the ground, right? So tragedy is still befalling this area, right? Like, this is not a great time of rejoicing. This is a time of bad things still happening. It said, the second woe now is past. Behold, the third woe is coming. Then the seventh angel sounded, and there were loud voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world would become the kingdoms of our Lord and his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. And then it gives this little speech. It says, because you have taken your great power and reigned. There is this understanding now. Like, it seems every time the seventh comes, right? Like this, it's like completion. The seventh comes, there's now an understanding that the kingdom is coming, right? Like, these are tragedies that are happening, things that are happening all over the earth. But ultimately, our Lord is winning this, right? Stuff is going to happen on the earth. It's going to go crazy up around here. But ultimately, Jesus is eventually going to win these things, right? But we're still going to see all of this madness happening. And people are going to be prophesying. And hopefully, I think during that time of prophetic vision, people are going to be coming to the Lord, right? It all is not lost yet, but the woes are here. The tragedies are coming. Can you see the Lord in and through all of these tragedies, right? Which some will and some won't. Then the temple of God was opened in heaven, and the ark of his covenant was seen in his temple. And there were lightnings, noises, thunders, an earthquake, and great hail. Okay. And then we move down into chapter 12. It says, and now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed in the sun. So we're going to see this. So she's clothed. She looks brilliant and beautiful and lovely and all the things. And it says, and then being with child, she cries out in labor. Another sign appears in heaven, great fiery dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 diadems on his head. His tail drew a third of the stars into the heavens. So listen, this is the bad guy. So there's a woman, she's with child, and then there's this great dragon thing with tails and horns and everything, and he's sweeping stuff out of the sky. So this is a bad thing. This to me, of course, I feel like represents, I shouldn't say of course. In some ways, I feel like it represents Mary, right? Being pregnant with the Lord and having the Lord, and then this beast coming up and trying to defeat this thing. It also appears to me like an Adam and Eve scenario, right? Where Adam was birthed. Of course, we know that he wasn't. He was created by the Lord, but was birthed, and then the devil comes up and tries to shake up that whole situation. So it's appearing to me that like these things pretty consistently happen, right? Like maybe not, but the situation happens where the devil is trying to take right what is good and what is right. He's trying to take all of this away. And it says, she bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. Then the woman fled into the wilderness where she had a place prepared by God. Okay, then war breaks out in heaven. So now, not only are these things going on the earth, right, but there is a war that's being broken out in heaven. Michael and his angels fight with this dragon, right? And then the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail. The great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan. This is where time gets funny. Because did this already happen, right? Like he was in the heavenly beings, right? Like he was up with the heavenly beings. And then this war broke out and then he cast him out, right? Like time sort of holds a different thing. Or is this something that is going to happen? Which, by the way, it could be something that is going to happen. And so I don't want to take any of that away, but we need to understand the story where, again, eventually he's cast out. He says, then he was cast to earth. Then I hear a loud voice saying in heaven, now salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brethren who accused them before our God, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb. The term is overcame. That's a past tense verb. But it doesn't look like this thing has come yet. As we live and breathe now, Satan is ruling the earth. So this is at least in my mind, this is my mind. In my mind, it's a promise that it is going to happen. It is a promise that without us really knowing and understanding it, it has already happened. This thing has already happened. It has already been done, right? And we are just living like we're kind of like fulfilling these things coming true because it has already happened. God has already made that. So he finishes and he says, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has a short time. So again, is this something that's currently happening, this short time he has right now? Or is this something that's going to happen in the future where maybe he's like literally living in and around among us? And I think those are at least 2 different variables that we can take on this. Now, when the dragon saw that he had been cast to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle that she might fly into the wilderness. And it said the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the flood with the dragon. So the dragon is in battle with this woman as well. And he went to make war with the rest of her offspring who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. So the dragon is consistently in battle with those who follow the Lord. And again, could this be a fulfillment of that prophecy way back in Genesis, right? Where your offspring, your seed, and her seed will be in war with each other, right? So like this might be the thing where we are constantly in battle. And that's the end of this chapter. But I just want to make this point, like we are constantly in battle. If you do not feel like as a Christian you are in battle with the world, you are probably not in a great place in your faith, because the world literally hates everything about Jesus. It really isn't like a live and let live situation or a coexisting situation. Somehow, always, the Christians tend to be the bad guys. And they'll go, "You're a good Christian as long as you do the things that we like and that we think are really important and that we think are righteous," right? Like, we want you to cater to, we want you to love when we say love. We want you to be kind and gentle when we say to be kind and gentle, not when your God says to be kind and gentle, because your God is a jerk and he doesn't do the right thing. And look at all this list of things that he did and all of these people that he was with and the things that he tells you you're not allowed to do. So the world is really persecuting us, but it's in a way, sometimes it's very, very subtle. Sometimes it's very manipulative and it's ways we don't understand. And we think to ourselves, am I not loving enough? Right? Am I not kind enough to my enemies? I'm told to love my enemies. What does that mean? What does that look like? Should I just keep my mouth shut and go on my merry way and just let everyone coexist? That's not the way the world is. We are made for battle. And by saying that, I don't mean we come out with our swords and fight everyone and curse at everyone and yell at everyone and pray for everyone's death. That's not the way that we are in battle, but we are in battle. And in battle, that means you need to be hand in hand consistently in relationship with the Lord. You don't ever want to put it where you're in the world some days and you're in the church other days. Like, right? Like you go, Sunday's a really good day for me. Sunday, I know I'm going to be in church. And so I know I'm going to be in prayer and I know I'm going to hear Christian music, whatever that might be, whether it's at a Catholic service, at an Orthodox service, or at a evangelical Baptist type service, like whatever that looks like. Like, I know I'm going to hear music that's about the Lord, and I know I'm going to be in prayer, and I'm probably going to be in communion. So I really got to get my ducks in a row that day. I'm not going to curse that day. I'm going to be nice. I'm not going to really talk about sports. I'm going to talk about things of the Lord. That should be our everyday. And if you think to yourself, well, that's just over the top. Like, why can't you just be one of those ones who just goes on Sunday? Like, that's ridiculous. Why would you mix your sports with your faith? Why would you mix your work with your faith? Why would you mix your friendships with your faith? Why would you mix your night out to dinner with your faith? It's 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 so completely enmeshed in who we are. Our faith is all of those things. So it shouldn't be a question of you being a Christian at dinner because you're a Christian. It shouldn't be a question of you being a Christian at work because you're a Christian. It shouldn't be a question if you can tell them things about Jesus because you're a Christian, right? This is the way that we're meant to live our lives. And this is being in battle with the spirits of Satan who are always going to be coming against us, which in our minds, I'm going to say this and it's hard to say, is anyone that is not a Christian, right? Anyone that is not a Christian, they can be so nice. I'm not talking about whether they are nice. And I'm not saying not to be nice, but I'm saying they are against us, right? In our terms of right and wrong and love and hate. And that's what we need to be aware of. And that's what we need to stand up against firmly and strongly, and to recognize that we are always in a battlefield. So that's where I'm ending for today. And if you guys have found this to be a blessing, I want you to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.